The name refuge indicates the ceremony by which one enters into the Buddhist path. You could say it's like the official beginnings of Buddhist practice. It's a ceremony, but of course the ceremony, to be meaningful, is simply openly saying what one has already come to feel. That is to say that one considers that practicing Buddhism is the way one wants to go in life, that one finds in Buddhist teachings the support for navigating the difficulties and problems and challenges of life, and to come to acquire a state of contentment and wisdom. The term refuge is, of course, a little bit funny because it signifies protection. But that's the way it's always been seen in Buddhism, that we need to find a way to deal with the sufferings which are inherent in the cycle of birth and death, to find a way to a space which is beyond those sufferings, which in a way exists within all beings. We think that it exists in everybody in potential, but right now we need some kind of support, and that support is provided by the example of the Buddha himself, who awakened to the nature of reality, dispelled his own delusions, and set about showing the way that others could do that. The Dharma, the teachings that he gave, the path, and those men and women who've gone before us on the path and are also on the path now, who provide the kind of friendship, the companionship that we can use to practice the Dharma. So it's a threefold sequence. Take refuge in the Buddha as our exemplar and as our guide, as our teacher, the Dharma he taught as the advice for the path to practice in life and also death, and the Sangha as the supporters. So taking refuge is in one way an initial step, but it's something we continue throughout life. We continue to deepen. In fact, in a way, we could say the whole of the Buddhist path is a journey to realize finally that the refuges are inside us. First, of course, we have to see that the guidance we need is coming from external sources, the Buddha and so on. But finally, the real meaning of refuge is that our mind itself is the enlightened one, is the awakened one, is that which contains all the potential for wisdom and compassion. So refuge is a journey, to use kind of a metaphor, that we follow from now until for the rest of this life, or if we have the bigger motivation, which we call the Mahayana, the great vehicle motivation, we continue to take refuge until achieving enlightenment, an achievement which we wish to arrive at to benefit others. So refuge is what makes you a Buddhist. But it's not like you have to pass a test, a set of I have these qualities, so I'm worthy of taking refuge. Refuge is for absolute beginners. So in a way, one might put it, although it sounds a little banal, if you like the Dharma, if you're interested in the Dharma, if you find it useful, think, well, of all the advice I've encountered in my life, this set of advice given by the Buddha and passed down to me is what makes most sense. You're ready to take refuge. So it's not like, as I say, you have to meet a kind of a requirement, you have to cross any bar, jump over any hurdles to take refuge. And another thing about taking refuge is, it's not like, I take refuge in one particular Buddhist school or one particular Buddhist tradition. The Buddhism is transmitted in different schools, different lineages, but refuge is just, I want to follow the Buddha. You're just a Buddhist in that much more general, much more universal sense when you take refuge. So it's shared across all Buddhist traditions, this taking refuge. And it's a support. One metaphor for it is it's like a protection, because you find a way to overcome the suffering which afflicts you and all beings. But also in a way it's like a foundation. Once you've taken refuge, you've got something steady to rely upon. Because one might say, well, I'll just in a kind of random kind of way. I'll take a bit from this teaching, a bit from that school, a bit from that religion, and I'll do my own thing in that way, and that will be beneficial. Well, it might be somewhat beneficial, but actually it seems we need to, if we're going to walk on the path, we need to have, in a way, solid ground beneath our feet, something we can come back to every day, something we know is trustworthy and truthful. And that's the meaning of taking refuge also, that one's got a solid foundation for one's spiritual endeavours. And that, is why we choose to take refuge in the three jewels, because for us, we think right now this is the most solid foundation for my life, for gaining happiness, for gaining wisdom, and so on. So that's really a very simple introduction to an impressionistic, one way of explaining refuge. One could talk in a much more kind of exact way about what each of these three jewels, as we call them, three rare and precious objects in which you take refuge, what they are: the Buddha, the awakened one, the one who awakened to the true nature of reality, uncovered the potential for compassion and wisdom and power that we all have, but he uncovered it. The Dharma, his teachings recorded in the scriptures, and the Dharma as our own experience as we practice the system of teaching, meditation and so on. And the Sangha, as in a way the ordinary Sangha of ordinary men and women who guide us and inspire us, and the noble Sangha, those great ones who've really displayed the qualities that arise in somebody who seriously practices the Dharma. So one could talk in much more detailed ways about that. But for most people now in the West, their connection with Buddhism is to begin with quite impressionistic, and so it's like they responded to this sense of, this is meaningful. I see in this something that will really benefit me. There's something truthful about this. There's something serious and truthful which I've not found elsewhere. If you think that about Buddhism, well, you've already taken refuge. And therefore, what I want to say about the ceremony is just speaking openly what one internally feels. It's not a magic thing where before you were stupid and now you become enlightened. No, we're just beginners when we take refuge, and for a long time afterwards. But it's more like, I feel this is workable, and I'm going to use it. That is, if you like, the very human way to take refuge. And it works.